Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're counting down our picks for the 10 hardest horror games from the 2000s. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth. Based on the works of cosmic horror writer H.P. Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth is a first-person investigative adventure game with challenges in spades. As Jack Walters, your priority is to use your deductive skills in order to decipher the dark goings-on in and around Innsmouth. This is one of those games that really doesn't hold your hand, instead forcing you to rely on your wits and navigational skills, and occasionally some wonky combat. The limited resources, lack of a traditional heads-up display, and sanity effects further enhance the difficulty of this cult classic horror game.
I maintain a fanatical infatuation with the occult, delving deep into volumes concerning witch cults and dark legends, often in languages unfamiliar to my own.
Resident Evil Outbreak File Number 2.
If a rescue team's on the way, I'd better hurry. I have kind of a bad feeling about this.
The T-Virus has wreaked havoc all across Raccoon City, and a host of survivors must band together in order to fight back against the horrors that plague every terrifying nook and cranny. Playing RE Outbreak File Number 2 in multiplayer is really the best way to experience this game, plus it reduces the challenge level overall. However, for those lone wolves out there, this game can be downright punishing at times. While yes, you do get some AI companions, they pale in comparison to flesh and blood players. Each of the game's unique scenarios offer brutal puzzles to solve and plenty of zombies to pummel. However, the resource scarcity, tank controls, limited camera angles, and ever-ticking virus gauge all ensure your skills will be tested at all times. Haunting Ground. So what is it with the 2000s era horror games that have a penchant for panic modes, terror states, and stalking enemies? Seriously, so many games from this time frame love to just thrust players into never-ending cycles of panic-induced horror. Well, 2005's Haunting Ground is no stranger to any of those aforementioned gameplay aspects. This cult classic PS2 horror game tosses you into the role of Fiona, where she and her fluffy pal Huey must survive a relentlessly terrifying Gothic-inspired castle amidst all manner of monstrosities. Stealth is really the name of the game here, navigating the labyrinthian halls, rooms, and corridors of the castle while trying to avoid the stalking enemies is certainly no easy feat, especially as you have to contend with challenging environmental puzzles and Fiona's panic.
Fiona.
Nightmare Creatures 2. Moody, macabre, and deeply unsettling Nightmare Creatures is back with a bloody vengeance. This time around, you are tossed into the dilapidated shoes of Herbert Wallace, a character who finds himself escaping a monster-infested and seriously sinister asylum that he once called home. This game is punishing for a multitude of reasons, including some clunky early 3D era controls and camera uses, confusing and dimly lit level layouts, and relentless grotesque monsters that won't be put down without a brutal fight. Nightmare Creatures 2 also relied heavily on a sporadic checkpoint and save system, which often meant you needed to retrace challenging areas if you happened to be sent to your grave too early. Maybe Herbert was better off locked away in his padded asylum room. Silent Hill 3. While it could be argued that the OG Silent Hill, or even Silent Hill 2, could replace this entry, for our money Silent Hill 3 is easily the hardest of the bunch, and one of the toughest 2000s era horror games. This time around, you play as the very capable and determined Heather Mason as she explores the eponymous town and surrounding areas, with hopes of discovering more about the nefarious cult behind the original game's machinations. Silent Hill 3's puzzles feel extra brutal when compared to the previous two games, which is saying something, forcing you to remember highly important info and scour every single inch of the game's spooky areas just in order to proceed. Yes, we are definitely talking about you, Shakespeare Puzzle, and let's not forget that Silent Hill 3 has some of the most demanding boss battles in the entirety of the series. Fatal Frame. Fatal Frame, also known as Project Zero in certain regions, might just be one of the most unique 2000s horror games, mostly down to the camera obscura. You see, in order to defeat the many creepy ghosts this game throws your way, you must literally come face to face with them through the lens of the camera obscura. Snapping photos of these supernatural entities is the only real way to damage them and exorcise them as you explore the very haunted Japanese mansion as Miku. The game blends dark and ominous labyrinthian locations with challenging puzzles and relentless ghost enemies, all with very little reprieve or any handholding. It's a seriously scary game that really tests your wits and your mettle in equal measure. Siren. Commonly referred to as Forbidden Siren in certain regions, this deeply disturbing horror game is not for the faint of heart, not at all. What makes Siren so darn challenging is that it puts stealth front and center. However, the stealth mechanics are often pretty fiddly and clunky. But Siren definitely has an ace up its sleeve: sightjacking. Sightjacking involves putting yourself into the supernatural shoes of the region's many haunting specters in order to see things from their points of view. This then allows you to attempt to navigate through and around them, only battling them as a very last resort. Plus, let's not forget that the remote Japanese village location of Hanuda is a maze-like and is littered with all manner of trial and error scenarios. Additionally, the story here is fragmented, constantly swapping between different characters, which can sometimes make keeping up with the narrative quite confounding to say the least. Clock Tower 3. Much like the aforementioned Haunting Ground, PS2's Clock Tower 3 follows a pretty similar gameplay structure and formula, at least when it comes to panic anxiety-induced states for central protagonist Alyssa. Alyssa finds herself back at her family estate under mysterious and horrifying circumstances. It's here she learns that she has supernatural powers that could help banish the evil around her. Despite these powers being present in the narrative first and foremost, most of your time actually playing Clock Tower 3 is spent running and hiding from stalking enemies. Puzzle solving and exploration are still very much a part of this game, but most of the challenge actually comes when Alyssa gets too panicked and must find somewhere safe, something I say in quotations, in order to try and recover.
Mum, I came back home. I know you told me not to, but I couldn't help it.
Nosferatu: The Wrath of Malachi. Easily the most obscure game on this entire list, Nosferatu: The Wrath of Malachi is an incredibly tough first-person horror adventure for PC. Your goal here, as James, is to navigate the dark and foreboding Gothic castle in order to defeat vampires and ultimately, hopefully, take on the nefarious Count Malachi. While this game might seem pretty straightforward at first glance, it's really anything but. The biggest challenge comes down to the game's ever-ticking clock that equates to certain characters being killed off permanently if you aren't fast enough to save them. Yeah, I mean, come on, talk about pressure. As a sort of early-era roguelite game of sorts, the castle's layout is randomized, which means you never really get comfortable with exploration on various playthroughs. Add in dimly lit halls and corridors, limited resources, and brutal baddies, and what you have is a recipe for a highly enjoyable yet utterly punishing vampiric experience. of Rose. Rule of Rose is a strange one for this list, since it's really not too different from many other 2000s era horror games, at least ones for the PS2 specifically. This game being hard mostly comes down to the esoteric nature of the narrative, one that involves a cult of menacing kids known as the Red Cran Aristocrat Club. It's up to Jennifer to decipher why this cult is so nefarious and why they have targeted her specifically. Exploring the airship location is unnerving and confusing, since much of it honestly just looks the same. Even when you think you are getting your bearings, you are then thrust into challenging puzzles or clunky combat scenarios that Jennifer never really seems prepared for. Rule of Rose has plenty of horrors to offer, so long as you are up for the challenge and the macabre discoveries the game throws at you. So, do you agree with our picks for this list? What are some of the hardest horror games from the 2000s that you have played? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video from MojoPlays. Be sure to subscribe for more gaming videos every single day.